Side 2.
I conducted a personal experiment years ago in which I went on a calorie deficit weight loss diet while training without steroids, and the first week I lost 9 pounds. Then I went on the same diet while taking steroids, and I gained 2 pounds the first week. One point worth making here is that the stealing of calories from adiposity would be a genetically mediated trait, and like all other genetic traits, its expression, how efficiently one's body makes use of calories from fat to form muscle, would vary across a broad range, from those whose body is poor at stealing calories from fat to those whose is very effective, and everything in between. Prior to my emphasizing the caloric dimension of nutrition to my clients, most would grow stronger, but many didn't gain the mass and body weight they desired. Since reducing the volume and frequency of their training, as described on tape 2, as well as emphasizing the need for a positive calorie balance, my clients' mass and body weight increases are finally keeping pace with their strength gains, and in the majority of cases, little or none of the weight gain is fat. As mentioned earlier, whereas 1, 2, or 3 or 4 years ago, I would only occasionally have a client gain 10 to 20 pounds in a month, or 30 to 40 pounds in 3 to 5 months, now it is no longer the occasional or exceptional case, it is the rule. For those who are acceptably lean, as well as those who may be concerned they have a bit too much fat presently, I'd suggest you embark on the suggested routine while in a positive calorie balance of 300 to 500 a day. For that second group, who may have a little more fat than they'd like, I propose that you place your fat loss concerns on hold for 2 or 3 months, put on 10 to 20 pounds of muscle, then go on a fat loss diet, at the end of which you'll not only be leaner, you'll have the extra muscle too. For those who are extremely overweight, who would like to build muscle, yet must lose fat, don't worry. There is a way of dealing with that efficaciously, and I'll get to it soon. The goal, remember, listener, is to serve the nutritional caloric needs of the growth mechanism to gain muscle mass and increase body weight while adding little or no body fat. To do so in a methodical fashion, start by keeping a 5-day food diary. Write down everything you eat for 5 days, and don't become self-conscious during that period and alter what you have typically been eating. What is needed is a representative sampling so it may be ascertained what your daily average calorie intake is. Write down everything you eat for 5 days and the quantity. Be as accurate with the quantity as possible, but don't fret if you think you're off a little. At the conclusion of each of the 5 days, sit down with a good calorie counting book. If you don't have one, buy one, as every conscientious bodybuilder should have one, since the caloric dimension of nutrition is vitally important, and tally the total calories for the day. At the end of the 5th day, take the 5 daily totals, add them for a grand total, divide by 5, and you'll have, of course, your daily average caloric intake. You must also weigh yourself at the beginning of day 1 and on the morning of day 6. If you didn't gain or lose during that 5-day period, your daily average is also your daily maintenance level of calories. Let's assume, hypothetically, that your daily maintenance level of calories turns out to be 2,100. Upon starting the suggested routine, make a conscientious, disciplined daily effort to keep your calories 300 to 500 above the maintenance level. If you don't, you'll maintain, you won't gain. But I'm not suggesting that all of a sudden you should start shoveling down indiscriminately large amounts of food. You'll only get fat. I have observed with my phone clients that some, not many, do not have a set maintenance calorie level, but a maintenance calorie range. If after 2 weeks into the training program, with a positive calorie balance as suggested, you haven't gained a couple of pounds, you might be just such an individual, so increase your calories another 300. And the calorie increase should conform roughly with the 60-25-15 ratio, with perhaps a bit greater emphasis on protein. Those who do as indicated and conscientiously keep watch of their calories so that they're in a positive balance of 300 to 500 a day will be quite delighted. In addition to growing stronger every workout, he'll gain 7, 8, 9, 10, or more pounds the first month. I can't say with any certainty just how much you might gain due to genetic variations. As mentioned previously, there are slightly more than 600 calories in a pound of muscle. If you are stimulating 3 pounds of muscle growth a week, you will require roughly 600 times 3, or 1,800 calories per week above maintenance. This translates to 257 calories a day above maintenance. I am recommending slightly higher so there's less chance of any slightest frustrating of the nutritional caloric needs of the growth mechanism. Let's assume, in your particular case, that your growth requirements don't necessitate a full 300 calories a day above maintenance. Then yes, the excess will turn to fat. However, there are 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. If you required only 150 calories a day above maintenance, the other 150 would turn to fat. But you would only gain 1 pound of fat a month. For those with a higher metabolic rate, or who have a difficult time consuming even a maintenance level of calories, I suggest Twin Labs RX Fuel to help boost your calorie intake. For those interested in losing fat, reduce your calorie intake by 500 to 1,000 a day below maintenance level, and you'll lose 1 to 2 pounds of fat a week. And as long as you're on a proper, high-intensity training program, you won't lose muscle, and you will likely even gain some. Reducing your calories 500 to 1,000 per day is sufficient to starve the fat enough to see a meaningful loss, yet still be enough to feed the lean mass and provide for some growth. Once you've lost the desired weight, go into a positive calorie balance as described. Recently, one of my phone clients reported that while on a calorie deficit diet, he lost 11 pounds of body weight over a 3-month period, increased his strength considerably, and even gained a half an inch on his arms. The loss of body weight would have been predominantly or exclusively fat, with certainly none of it being from the contractile protein element in the muscle, as he did grow stronger and put 1/2 inch on his arms. One cannot lose muscle and grow stronger. This gain of muscle mass while losing fat does not prove that his body stole calories from fat and shunted them to the muscles. It demonstrates that when you're in a modest negative calorie balance, the fat can be starved sufficiently to be used as fuel, and yet enough nutrition still provided to maintain lean mass and allow for at least some muscle growth production. I told my client, however, that as well as he did in terms of strength and lean mass increases, he would have done better on a positive calorie balance. As a bodybuilder continues to gain muscle mass and body weight, his maintenance level of calories gradually goes up until finally weight gains slow down, then come to a halt. When you see that your weight gains have slowed down, increase your calories another 300 to 500 and you'll resume gaining. Likewise, as a person continues to lose weight, his maintenance level goes down and the weight loss diminishes and eventually comes to a halt. When this starts to happen, reduce calories by another 500 or so a day and the weight loss will continue. It has been suggested by many reputable nutritional scientists that when on a weight loss program, the individual should not go below 12 to 1,500 calories, as it is impossible to obtain a well-balanced diet below that level. In cases of morbid obesity, it may be necessary to reduce calories even further, but only while under the care of a physician. One will know when he is too low in calories by the fact that he will stop dropping pounds precipitously. Rather than 1 to 2 pounds a week, he'll start losing 4 to 5 pounds a week or even more. This rate of weight loss is indicative that one's muscles have begun to catabolize, which is undesirable for a number of reasons, the least of which is that the loss of lean mass will slow down the metabolism. Since muscle only has 600 calories per pound versus the 3,500 calories per pound of fat, the body will burn up to 6 pounds of muscle to get the same caloric yield as from 1 pound of fat. Hence the much increased rate of weight loss. For those desiring to lose weight, yes, low carbohydrate diets do work, but like all diets that work, it does so by being a calorie deficit diet, one that is lower in calories than maintenance level. You'd be better to reduce the calories of all the macronutrients instead of just one, or you run the risk of not obtaining a well-balanced diet. And if you are on a well-balanced diet with a calorie deficit, it won't hurt your weight loss efforts to have an occasional treat such as a candy bar, piece of pizza, or some ice cream. Just take into account the calories they contain, figure it into your daily calorie budget, and subtract some other food item. A question I get literally almost every day from clients is whether or not it is important to eat 6 meals a day. And the answer is no. It is not necessary to have 6 formal meals a day. The body is quite resourceful in that if you were to skip even one of the 3 square meals in a day, it would make up for it by utilizing more of the nutrients than usual from the next meal. Eat your 3 square meals a day plus a snack or 2, along with your supplements, and you'll be fine. To disrupt one's life to such an extent that he's taking the time to prepare 6 formal meals a day is to make nutrition a neurotic obsession, when it should be viewed primarily as a basic need, where no more time than is minimally required is spent fulfilling it. When a bodybuilder is actually gaining muscle mass as well as getting stronger, he should see a reciprocally reinforcing relationship between the two. In other words, his muscle mass increases will facilitate even greater strength increases, which in turn facilitate greater growth stimulation. And the rate of your strength increase will serve as a relative indice of how much growth is being stimulated. If you are only increasing a rep or so here and there, obviously there is less growth stimulation than if you're increasing in strength by leaps and bounds. If at some point you believe you may need more than a 300 to 500 positive calorie balance, go higher, but be cautious and methodic. Go up a couple of hundred calories at a time and keep tabs on your body weight. If at some point you start gaining very rapidly, check to make sure it's muscle, and if not, simply cut back. Gaining fat is anathema for the bodybuilder, certainly never to one's advantage. A right-thinking bodybuilder should desire to gain only muscle, as his goal is not to be only muscularly massive, but also defined in appearance. It is not necessary, as I was led to believe 30 years ago, that one must bulk up, that is, gain fat with muscle, to build muscle, which was a very common belief. The more fat one puts on, the longer and harder he'll have to diet to get it off. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's not fun. Now, with regard to supplements, there is mounting evidence to suggest that even with a well-balanced diet, it is impossible to get enough of certain nutritional substances. One of them is creatine, an important component in the phosphocreatine compound within the muscle itself, necessary for maximum energizing and growth. I first started hearing about the positive effects of creatine a year and a half ago, as a remarkably large number of my phone clients began reporting to me, unsolicited, that whenever they took creatine, they trained better and gained faster. I found this rather astonishing, as I don't ever recall, in all of my 33 years of bodybuilding, having heard such a resounding endorsement of any supplement. And while such would be endorsement enough for most, I remained somewhat skeptical. Then I was approached by Steve Bleckman, owner of Twin Lab, to lend my personal endorsement to his Creatine Fuel Plus. When I expressed my skepticism to Mr. Bleckman, he stated emphatically that the reason he wanted me in particular to endorse this product was because of my strict adherence to science in bodybuilding, and that this was the one supplement that had the greatest scientific medical research backing it. Mr. Bleckman knew that my main thrust with regard to nutrition was that the individual should seek to consume a well-balanced diet on a daily basis, and he agrees. He then explained that the research indicated that even when consuming a well-balanced diet, including up to 2 pounds of red meat a day, which is high in creatine, such was not sufficient to load the muscles with creatine. I responded by pointing out that I had never pretended to have exhaustive knowledge on the subject of nutrition or supplement, and that what he had just explained certainly sounded plausible. As telling testimony to his honesty and sound business ethics, Mr. Bleckman said he didn't want me to accept the endorsement offer on his verbal recommendation alone, and that he would send me the scientific literature on the subject of creatine's importance in fueling anaerobic high-intensity training. And he did, volumes of it in fact. It was from a variety of researchers and nutritional specialists, and has all agreed that creatine added to a well-balanced diet increased the efficiency of high-intensity exercise. I ceased being so skeptical. Now that all remained was for me to try it personally. The past 6 years, I have worked 7 days a week to build my business. And when my business kept me working up to 10 hours or more a day, I decided to stop training for a while. Well, a while turned into 4 long years, and I slipped into the worst shape of my life. So when I finally decided to start training again on October 24th, 1995, I did so with some trepidation. Because my muscles had atrophied, or shrunk considerably, and I added 25 pounds of fat while having become very deconditioned, I feared that even mild or moderate intensity workouts would see me nauseous, sore, and feeling out of sorts. But none of that happened. While I was planning on holding back on the first several workouts, such has always been difficult, and it was this time. By the end of the first workout, I had realized that I had gone to complete failure in all of my sets, exerting 100% intensity of effort, and with a minimum of rest between sets. Not only was I not sick or tired, I literally felt indefatigable, as though I could go on indefinitely. And I gained 30 pounds of muscle or so the first month. That sounds like a lot, and it is, but remember, I was regaining muscle, which is always easier than gaining it for the first time. Having come back from numerous layoffs in the past, never had I felt this good, nor had I ever gained so much muscle in such a short period. And I attribute some of this, at least, to taking Creatine Fuel Plus daily. My phone consultation clients, not to mention Steve Bleckman, were right. Finally, a supplement that serves to truly augment a proper training and rest program. I don't want to mislead anyone. No supplement is magic. Without proper training, adequate rest, and nutrition, no one is going to gain optimally. For those not privy to the scientific research and literature, obtain an exercise science or physiology textbook, and usually in the first chapter, there is a complete section on the energy metabolism of muscles. In the subsection on the metabolism of anaerobic activity, there is considerable space devoted to the importance of creatine in fueling high-intensity exercise. It only stands to reason that muscles loaded with creatine will perform better and respond better. Simple enough. Back to the concept need. The concept need plays a crucial epistemological or intellectual role in nutrition. One, in fact, that reverberates throughout the entire realm of biology. If you've ever studied physiology, psychology, or sociology, you've no doubt encountered the concept need. Indeed, the concept need plays an important role in bodybuilding science. A rational bodybuilder does not train beyond need or necessity, because this constitutes overtraining, which results in lack of progress and even the loss of muscle. And he does not want to consume food beyond need, since that results in the laying down of fat. Bodybuilding, like I've learned is true of every other subject in human life, can also be ultimately understood in terms of basic principles. They are, number 1, train hard. Train to failure to stimulate growth. Number 2, don't overtrain, get adequate rest. And number 3, eat a well-balanced diet, with number 2 and 3 being required so that the body can produce the muscle growth that the workout merely stimulated. With regard to point number 3, once you have formulated a diet that is reasonably well-balanced, then supplement. The most popular supplements with my training clients are Ripped Fuel for increased energy and fat burning, RX Fuel for extra protein and overall nutritional insurance, Creatine Fuel for enhanced strength, power, and muscle growth, and finally Sport Fuel, vitamin and mineral formula which is specially designed for athletes and bodybuilders, as it is rich in antioxidant nutrients that have been shown to prevent muscle damage. If you had just arrived from the planet Mars onto the Earth and decided you wanted to build your muscles, and I told you that all that is required is one workout lasting 15 to 20 minutes every 4 to 7 days or so, Such would not strike you as too much or too little. You would have an unobstructed look at the matter. As a fresh arrival from the planet Mars, your thinking would be unhampered by all of the unwarranted assumptions, false generalizations, and undefined contradictions about weight training that are floating like so much cognitive detritus, polluting the intellectual atmosphere of the Earth's bodybuilding subculture. The main point to keep in mind is that bodybuilding is anaerobic, which is antipodal to aerobic. Their defining principles, remember, are opposites. Anaerobic, high intensity, short duration, versus aerobic, low intensity, long duration. Most of the information presented on these first 3 tapes is not new. What I did was take some well-known, well-authenticated facts from exercise and nutritional science and apply them to the unique needs of the bodybuilder. And it is up to each and every listener to work with the further practical application to make the concepts work for his unique needs. Yes, we all have unique needs. This does not contradict my earlier assertion that we are all essentially the same. We are all most unique in that each of us occupies a different space and time. Regarding nutrition, we all metabolize food at various rates. That is, we possess varying metabolic rates. Because we have different metabolic rates, we get fat, lose weight, and grow muscle at varying rates of speed. While this is patently evident that we possess different metabolic rates, what is less obvious, but very important, is that the physiologic principles governing metabolism are universal. The chemical processes governing our utilization of food for energy, maintenance, repair, and growth have been clearly mapped and circumscribed by physiologists long ago. Pick up any textbook on exercise physiology or nutritional science, and you'll be reading about what goes on inside of yourself and your neighbor and your training partner and everyone. So while we each possess the unique stamp of an unrepeatable, irreplaceable personality, we're not all that different inside. We all need protein, we all require sleep, we all burn carbohydrates at the rate of 4 calories per gram, we all need intense exercise to stimulate growth, we each possess a limited recovery ability, and as bodybuilders know, muscle growth beyond normal levels is never fast enough. Although you'll be delightfully surprised when you apply the knowledge gained from these tapes. Considering what you know now, having listened to these tapes, are you going to let some Hulk guide you in the wrong direction merely because he has a 19-inch arm? Are you going to allow your subsequent training activities and dietary practices be continually dominated by the bootleg logic more is better? He who acts contrary to what his perceptions and rational thoughts tell him is the truth is akin to Dostoevsky's underground man who cries, "What do I care for the laws of nature and arithmetic when for some reason I don't like them, or the fact that 2 + 2 = 4? Yes, you are free to evade the responsibility of rational thought and logical deliberation, but not free to escape the consequences. It's up to you."
This concludes tape 3. Please go to tape number 4, Mentzer, the Man and the Controversy.